call this session the frequently asked questions. Question
Okay.
number one. Are you ready? Drum roll. Okay, so someone is asking that, do we apply to schools first or look for the research sponsor first?
So I think it's an iterative process. So when you are even applying to some schools would have even on their websites, or I mean, when you're looking actually, I think you're searching for all the information at the same time. So on my opportunities master list, I'm not just putting schools down and professors. If I see a scholarship, I'm going to put it down. So some schools will even have a list of these are some external scholarships that you might be eligible for. So it's almost like a chicken and egg situation. Sometimes you may find an external scholarship and they say, oh, it's tenable at only this school, and then that takes you to that school. So it really just depends. Just keep an open mind, be able to spot opportunities, and follow the money. That's my advice.
So the next question is that you mentioned some scholarships for PhD, but not sure you got that for the masters. Can you come back on that, please?
So for the masters, as I said, I didn't do a master's here. So I'm just going to tell you what I know based on the people that I've worked with. For the masters, most of the scholarships people tend to get are research-based scholarships based in their institutions. You can also get the MasterCard scholarship, which is a very popular one. But most of the scholarships that are really, I'm not sure if the SHIRK is available for masters actually right now. I'm not really sure. But for master's programs, honestly, you're mostly looking within your school. And you're also looking at, as I mentioned before, organizations that are within your area or organizations that fund people within your demographic. So I mentioned the PEO scholarship. It's eligible, it's applicable to people who are trying to study in North America and North America, Canada, and the US. There's also the Delta Kappa Gamma scholarship for women. That's also applicable for masters, not just PhD. So a lot of the scholarships sometimes are open to masters and PhD research-based programs. But for masters, most times, your best bet is getting a scholarship within your department.
Absolutely. So someone is asking that, are you required to pay application fees when applying for a master's program?
So it depends on your school. I don't think Canadian schools are that keen on application waivers. I do remember though, when I applied, that University of British Columbia did not accept application fees from Nigerians because we were having a huge dollar crisis at that time. And they listed a couple of countries that they said no need for application fees. And I thought that was pretty special. So you're going to have to check the school. I always ask that you should send an email to ask for an application fee waiver if it's possible. If it's not possible, then you might have to apply, which is why you have to make sure that you're not just applying to random schools. You're picking schools that have potential opportunities for you in it, because you don't want to waste your application fees. Also, every year we give out, at $100 for to a couple of people who apply for an application fee grant, and we give you $100 towards either your application fee or to supplement any of your exams that you need to do. We've done this consistently for the past 3 to 4 years. It's just one of our ways of giving back. So follow us at Getting Edu. Just literally Get in Edu, no space, no full stop, nothing. And so you'll be updated, or sign up to our mailing list. You can check the link in our bio and you'll be updated when the application fee grant opens. I understand that sometimes you'd be like, oh, it's just $100, but trust me, I know that when you convert it to your currency, it's a substantial amount of money. It is a substantial amount of money. So I do feel your pain. Sometimes you might have to start saving really early. You understand, just so that you can, gather these, what's the financial resources that you need. Yeah.
Aside from the entrance scholarship, do you have to get into the university before applying to other available ones regarding your course of study?
Okay, that's a good question. It depends on, always it depends. So there are some scholarships that they would even say once you get your admission, now that you've been admitted, you can now send in an application for a particular scholarship. There's some scholarships that are to the school, even with, you submit to the school alongside your application. You submit a separate application, and you may not even hear back until after your admission decision has been done. So honestly, it really depends on the particular school, particular program, and how they structure it. But what is the mistake for you would be not knowing about those opportunities and not tracking them. right? Some scholarships have deadlines way earlier than even the admissions deadline for the program. And it would be a huge loss if you're seeing a scholarship that has closed, you know, in the year you're meant to apply. The tip I give everyone is that if you see a scholarship that has closed, if it closed, let's say February 2021, it means it's going to be open sometime late this year to close again next February 2021. So you see a closed scholarship is actually an opportunity waiting to open again. So it's really rare for me to miss an opportunity because I target them a year ahead. So that's what I'd advise you to do. Target your opportunities a year ahead and set an alarm for when you think you should check if it's open.
Yeah, someone is asking that is second class lower students do stand a chance of getting a scholarship in Canada, because usually people with GPA 3 to 4 are those that get it. What do you think? Yeah.
Okay, so I think with a 2-2, you have a lot more work to do, and I think you probably even have better chances in the US. The reason being, it's mathematics, right? There are only so many schools in Canada, and if they get the highest ranking applications, right, it only makes sense that they would take, you know, those applications. However, as a 2-2 candidate, if you're able to stand out, especially for a research-based program, and if you're able to demonstrate competence over somebody who has grades, you know, competence in that research topic or that research area, if you're able to demonstrate competence over someone who has the grades, then you're in a better position. So if you have a 2-2, you might need to write and publish and, you know, be very active, right, in the field, as opposed to just relying on your grades. You need to be part of organizations. You need to be aggressive. You know, when you're sending your emails, you need to be articulate. You need to, when you interview, you need to be articulate. There's no space for mistakes for you. So I would say that don't put your whole hopes on Canada, because some programs are super strict about the academic requirements and there's nothing they can do about it. But I would say that hedge your bets by, you know, applying to schools in the US and other locations that you think might be more flexible.
Someone is asking that, is it easier to get a scholarship for medical school in Canada?
So for medical school in Canada, if you want to come to Canada to study medicine, you need to have your money. And you're going to be paying up to $100,000 a year as an international student. So I do not advise you to come to Canada to study medicine or have a mindset of coming to study medicine in Canada on a scholarship. There are no scholarships for international students. In fact, even getting admitted to medical school in Canada as an international student is a huge achievement, right? I think the U of T class, I think there are only 6 international students in that class and they're paying heavily. So if you're interested in medicine, you are better off finishing off your home country or going to somewhere like Ukraine or going to the Caribbean islands and then trying to match into the US. Also bear it in mind that medicine here in Canada is a second degree. You can't just come out of high school to study medicine. You need to have gotten a different degree. So if your goal is medicine, same thing for law. If you want to study law in Canada not as an undergraduate, but not as a master's, but like just to get a JD, you need your money. Even domestic students are still hustling for scholarships, so you need your money. Yeah. And that goes to the point about picking the right programs. Like anytime anybody comes to me and says, oh, I want to study medicine in Canada, I'm like, yeah, where's your money? You know, I'm not going to deceive you because I know that there are pretty much no scholarships for that program.
Yeah. Someone is asking that you touched on career switch. Maybe you did engineering, you want to go into law. Is there any systematic way of switching?
So this is something I talk about in the bootcamp a little bit. And the first thing that I say is that if your career switch doesn't even make sense to you, it can't make sense to anyone else. What does that mean? You can switch from anything to anything, but if you don't have a justification in your mind, if you don't have a logic that you can share with someone, then you probably should be very careful before making that switch, because you're going to have to keep explaining that switch to people, right? You're going to explain it to the visa official, you're going to explain it to the admissions committee, you're going to explain it to everyone. So I usually try my best to see if there's a nexus between your past and where you're going. If there's no nexus, you need to really think, why are you doing this? Or was there a life event that made you change your approach, and what have you done in the meantime to build competence in your new area. So again, if your career switch doesn't make sense to you, it can't make sense to anyone else. So you need to have a logic that is very defining. For example, if you studied let's say animal science or something in uni, and then because of circumstances and jobs you had to go to a bank. In your bank, if you know that you want to do a career switch in your bank, if there's anything that has to do with agriculture funding, you should network your way to start doing that work, even if it is volunteering, even if it is off cycle, even if you're doing it. You need to find that, and then you can then apply for a program, whether it's in finance or whether it's even in sustainable development, to say, oh, look, I want to go back. I had animal whatever as my background for agriculture. I've worked in finance. Now I want to marry. You understand what I'm saying? I want to go back to the animal science or agriculture dimension, but using my finance. You understand, looking at ways to finance agricultural development in developing countries. You can go for a program in sustainability, maybe even climate change. Like, that's a way to do a switch, right? Or if you had a background in animal science and you ended up doing something related to data, right? If you want to switch back or to go back to animal science, how can you combine those two together and say, look, I have the skills with data, and then there's this challenge with animal science. It might not be what you want to do in the end. Maybe what you actually want to do is technology. You understand what I'm saying? Like core technology. But you may be able to say that, oh, I want to apply my technology into the agricultural field as a case study. And then your background in animal science doesn't look irrelevant anymore. In fact, it looks like an asset. But if you're not able to make that connection in your mind, you can never connect it to anyone else. And it could be that you're doing something completely different, and you studied law, but you ended up in fashion. How did you end up in fashion? What motivated you? You need to be able to share it. And then you can now say that, let's say you now want to do an MBA. That's not difficult. You can say that, with your legal background, you've seen the difficulties that fashion entrepreneurs face in protecting their designs or whatever. And so you want to do an MBA because you want to do a startup that advises fashion companies, whatever. Like, there's always a connection. All these are just fictional examples. But if it cannot make sense to you, it can't make sense to anyone else. That's it.
Yeah, and just to touch on that, someone also asked that, do you need a GRE to do a master's in a business related program as an engineering graduate? That's sort of like a shift as well. And I think that to touch on all of those questions in terms of standardized test, mostly the school will specify in the application that they need an IELTS band score, that GRE grade, that. So whatever opportunity you see out there, they will specify that. So you don't need to be fixated on what particular, like, if you know what you're applying for, what they are requiring of you, then you go back, you write it, or prepare to write all of that. Someone is asking that, are you aware of any 1+3, 2+2 routes in a Canadian school, just as in the UK?
I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah,
maybe you can explain. Are you saying like doing like a pre-master's program, or that could mean a lot of things. I'm not really sure what you mean.
Yeah. I think that if you can just come again, if you put that question and you can just come again with that question a little bit more. But I hope that it's not like the point-based immigration routes or systems through Canadian.
No, I don't think that's what they're asking. No, I don't think so.
Someone is saying that, thanks for this. Can someone with a third class get a scholarship for a postgraduate program?
It's pretty much the same thing with the 2-2 answer, Yeah. I think one thing I tell everyone who does our boot camp, especially people with lower grades, number one, you have to believe it's even possible. If you don't think it's possible, you will be half-hearted about it. And I do teach strategies of how to, make the best of it. But, with a third class degree, one of the things people fail to realize is that every year you leave school, your grades matter less. And this applies whether you have a first or you have a third class. Now, imagine if 10 years after I leave university, somebody says, oh, Miriam, introduce yourself to me. And I say, oh, hi, my name is Miriam. I had a first class from university. And they're like, okay. You're like, yeah, my name is Miriam. I had a first class from university. You're going to look stupid. right? I had a first ever university 10 years ago. You don't look silly. Or if you come, but imagine if you come to, you know, a program and you say, oh, hi, my name is Miriam. Over the past 5 years, I've helped, Africans access over $25 million in scholarships. I work as a lawyer with this organization. This is the impact that I've had. I do this, I do that. I'm on this board. I support, educational initiatives in Africa. I support international trade, for small businesses and e-commerces, e-commerce businesses, blah, 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 blah. And I give my profile. Is anybody going to ask me, oh, by the way, what did you finish with in university? And then I say, oh, sorry, I had a third class. It's never going to come up. But the problem is that if you have a third class, people feel so immobilized by that third class that they fail to build a profile. And you, of all people, need that profile more than anyone else, because at least the first class person has something already to say. But, if they refuse to build on their profile, in the next few years, they will not be competitive. So if you had a third class and that has been the thing that has been holding you back, my question is, so after you had that third class, what did you do since then? And if you don't have a good answer to that, say, oh, but all the opportunities are close to me because I have a third class. It's not true. People gravitate towards value. Nobody cares your grades. I don't look at grades when I hire. I look at competence. I look at, potential. I look at their ability to do work. If I send you a test, if you had a first class and you don't do it well, I'm not going to call you back. I don't care whether your first class is first class upper. It doesn't matter. You understand? So it's true. So really, I'm just going to encourage you, if you had a third or a 2-2, the question isn't what you had in terms of your grades, it's what have you done since then? And if you've not been deliberate about it, it's time for you to be.
Dropping some gems.
Now.
Yeah, like see, the number of times you leave school, the number of years you leave school, your grades.
It becomes irrelevant.
Very deep, very deep,
Yeah.
very deep. Yeah.
Someone is. So if you had a first class and you feel like anytime I'm ready for my masters, I will just get it like that. I'm just looking at you. If you've not been doing stuff over the past few years, you're not going to be competitive.
Yeah. So in some few minutes we'll be ending it. I'm sorry, but we've got to attend to stuff as well. Someone is asking that, is it advisable to write to a school to help you find a supervisor after you've written so much to them without any response?
You write to the school to help you find a supervisor. I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
You usually contact the supervisor directly. I've never heard that before. So the thing is, you have to be in charge of this process. You're not begging. If you go to grad school, you're not going there to beg for an opportunity. You're actually going there to work. And work has value and you have value. So the moment you begin to understand that actually my job is to give them value, you stop begging or feeling frustrated. Your work will be, how can I become the most valuable candidate, right? That even the schools, like we always say, that our candidates, now them, they rush us, because by the time people who go through our program, by the time they're submitting applications, the schools want them. Like the goal is for the schools to say, this person in the next few years, they're going to be the next Obama. I want them. That's your goal. In the moment until you have that mindset of, I'm going to be so attractive that these guys will beat themselves up if they don't take me, you don't yet have the right mindset for this journey.
Yeah. Someone is asking, and I think that'll be the last question. Please, if you have any questions, I'm sure we will take the questions. In her free time, she would answer them, and we'll put the answers in on our page. We'll also give her time to talk about one of her boot camps that's coming up as well. If you would like to enroll in it, that's fine. So the last question is saying that I'm a physics graduate currently working in environmental regulation. However, I've always had the interest and passion in technology. I would like to make a switch to data science, computer science. I've been studying a lot on Coursera and have a few certificates to show for it. How is my switch going to be like?
Honestly, I don't know. And for you, if you're technology focused, your switch might not actually be going to school. It might be just switching into a job. That's the truth. A lot of you guys that are in tech have that advantage because nobody really cares so much. And I know this firsthand from a lot of people who have done tech, in fact, data science switch. Nobody cares so much if you have a formal degree in data science. They just care what you can do. And I think the moment you understand that, you begin to see that, maybe going for a degree may not be the best step for you. Bear in mind also, by the way, as I said, you have to do research on your programs. If your program is not a funded type of program, there's no point. Data science programs alone are hardly funded. Yeah. Why? Because it's extremely popular now. They know that once you have a degree in data science, you're going to probably get a job. And so they actually make the programs almost as expensive as MBAs these days. And they would, they make it almost as expensive as MBAs, and it's one of those cost-based programs where there are rarely scholarships. I know this because I've done the research before. Now, what can you do? If I were you, I would look at the field where I already have some experience and use my knowledge of data, saying that I want to do a research in that field using so and so statistical methods, blah, blah, blah. So it's possible that you are looking for a research-based program. I'm sure there are people who have combined data with what you're trying to do. And if there's nobody who has combined it, you can be the first. That's why it's research, right? You're trying to push the frontiers of what we know. And so what I would do is to leverage on what you already have a background in, and then say that, put your superpower would be, I'm not just coming to do I'm not doing, just like regular research, like online research or whatever. I'm going to be using like a statistical method of so and so, which I have the ability to do already, to be able to find so and so solutions. That's what I would do. But thinking of a master's in data science, I think that's a bad idea, personally.
Absolutely.
Because you can do boot camps, you can study online. You don't need to go to school for data science. It depends. There's even a very good Indian program that will cost you $300 a year. That is actually better than a lot of data science degrees, just FYI. But they didn't pay me to market, so I cannot market.
Thank you so much, Miriam.